Two women, one unshakable faith, a lifetime of service, friendship, and fearless advocacy. This is the story of Sister Rose Kidd and Sister Martha V. Hill, nuns who didn't just walk in faith, warriors for the unborn, educators living in prayer, purpose, and love.
I grew up on a farm. It was a big dairy farm. We had cows and the milk was picked up every day, and then the Depression hit and they couldn't sell milk, so they dumped the milk, and my dad had to sell that farm. And then we moved to a little gas station. He did gas work for a while, and we lived all in one room above the gas station. And then we moved to another little tiny farm in Cottage, New York, and my sisters, they went to school, the older ones, but I stayed home, and I know I don't know, I just wanted to go to school, you know. And then we moved out of that house, but my mother lost a baby there, I remember, born dead, and that we felt, I remember that, I was only 4 or 5 years old, but anyway, then we moved to Versailles, and I went to school there, first grade, and I remember coming home and eating tomato soup at home, and then going back to school because we could walk both ways.
I was born in Taos, New Mexico. I was born it was a 42-bed hospital at that time. I was born November 17th of 1953.
Even in their earliest days, both women were surrounded by service and faith. They came from large, hardworking families and from places where community meant everything.
And then we moved to Perrysburg, and then my dad got a job at the cannery, and where they also at a place where they took old dead horses and cows and stuff. Anyway, they made glue, I guess. And because he worked there, it was by a Catholic school, and I was able to go to Catholic school for 1 year. My sisters didn't like it, but I did, and that's where my vocation came from, really, because I loved the sister that taught me. And then we moved to Nashville on a farm, and my dad was so creative. I knew it was going to be more about my dad than me, because he was able to fix up that disheveled house, to build a barn, to bring water from a little spring in there, and to pipe it up, and we had water, fresh spring water flowing continually. And then he created his own electricity out of jalopy cars that he tore down, and made his own electricity. And so we took the gas lighting out of our old house, and he converted it to electricity, and then we got hot water from a tank that we didn't have before. And then we had a farm that we had to milk cows by hand. We had it was before the milking process came in by machine. And then that's where mostly I lived my life, right there, because I was about 9 years old by that time. And then finally, from that place, I guess my brother decided he would live there with his wife for a while, but my dad and a bunch of us gathered rocks from the field, and we built a house of rock. And he had heating in the floor from pipes going through the floor. Anyway, it was pretty neat. But then I decided I was time out of high school, so I went to work first at a little restaurant for a few months, and then I went to Van Ralt's making clothing, slips and garments for women. And then during that time, I probably got involved with a lot of ladies. We used to go and say the rosary. There was 3 churches in the area, and I was living in the town with another friend. And we used to say the rosary every noon, and finally I saw a priest there at one of the churches, and he was a Passionist priest, and then I decided I would enter religious life. I went to that order that he suggested, and it was taking care of delinquent girls.
And I was the sisters, and I can't remember the order of the sisters that ran the hospital, but anyway, they were the ones taking care of me while, I was the preemie, and I couldn't go home until I was able to breathe on my own and all. But my parents were Felix and Eloisa Vigil, and I had 3 brothers and 6 sisters, so we were a family of 10. I spent my time, the 3 months in the hospital, and since the hospital was really small, I imagine they only maybe even had just 1 incubator, I don't know. But anyway, the sisters that were there, they had the convent right next door to the hospital. And I, was not sick, but I just needed more time. And so they took me to their convent to take care of me for a little bit. And so when my parents came to pick me up from the convent or hospital, they said, "Oh, well, we're ready to, take Martha home." And the sisters jokingly, I think, said, "Oh no, she belongs to us." And so at that point, or later on in years, I kind of thought, well, maybe that was the Lord already had plans for me to enter religious life, even since I was a little baby. And so that was very nice, And so I just felt that God led me to that. And so then, so then when my parents came to pick me up, and I guess my brothers and sisters were all excited to have me come home and all. So, and my family, we lived in a neighborhood where it was a small neighborhood, but everybody was related, and it was mainly my mom's family. My dad's family, they were all separate in separate places, different cities, but my mom's family was all there in that community. And so we were all first cousins, second cousins, whatever. So we grew up together there, and it was just very religious, very, very Catholic. So it was a nice environment at that time.
This is the order I went, and they used me for a vocation center. But this was my 25th anniversary. Our Lady of Charity of the Refuge, okay, and that was in Pennsylvania, Erie, Pennselsylvania, not too far from where I live though. I eventually left that order. They disbanded, so they are no more. And then I went to this religious life where I am now. And then I had a few people join, but not many, because it's just no vocations here.
While Sister Rose followed a traditional path through novitiate and religious formation, Sister Martha came later, drawn by community, prayer, and purpose.
My father was a contractor. He built houses made out of adobe. And then he also carved statues, and he made different furnitures, tables, chairs, cabinets, and he carved a San Isidro for the chapel that is close to our house, and it still hangs. He put it like in a kind of hanger, and they anchored it up to the, they hung it from the wall, from the ceiling rather. And it's still there. He had made it for our family, but what happened was that the San Isidro fiesta was coming up, and so the mayordomos, which is those people that kind of manage the church and stuff, they went to clean the church, and they discovered that San Isidro saint was no longer at the church, and they thought, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We don't have our saint here. So they went to this guy who makes cabinets, and he said, no, I can't not make a San Isidro. So then they said, but go and ask Mr. Vigil, ask Felix. He could probably do one for you. Well, my dad said, well, when do you need it for? And they said, May 15th, and it was probably April. And my dad said, well, there'd be no way in the world I could come up with the San Isidro before the fiesta, but I do have one that belongs to my family, but I will give you that. And so he donated it to the church. I was so involved with the church through high school, and I was always involved in retreats and catechism and the whole bit. And then when I went away to college, I went to Las Cruces first. And I was there at the Newman Center, involved with the Newman Center, involved with many activities there in the choir, doing ushering, reading, just everything and anything, and attending prayer meetings. And then all of a sudden, I just thought, maybe I'm called to religious life. And so then I found this one group that she was a lay person and her husband was a deacon, and she had a group called the Witness Group. And so from there, we started getting together once a month, maybe twice a month, and we'd go to Holy Cross Retreat House, and we'd pray the rosary, and we'd say some other prayers, and we exchanged literature. And then the best part was that we were able to have some food from the friars, because they had retreats and all, and whatever was left over we could have that evening, and it was delicious. So I enjoyed that, and my other friends did too. And anyway, then from then, that was our first beginning. And then we would go to the different places in New Mexico to visit the convents. I even came to the Poor Clares, celebrated one birthday here with a little birthday cake outside in the lawn. And we were just visiting and seeing, where the Lord would lead us. And then, so I think it was then that I realized, hey, God is really calling me. And so, it was, I had a lot of experience from, going to the different convents. And I think that my parents and the Dominican sisters, because I went to Catholic school for 3 years, I think they were my big inspiration, And so, but it was good. It was a good time for me, because I kept thinking, I think this is where I'm supposed to go. But I was in my middle 30s when all this was happening. Now my dad, he was excited. He said, oh, how nice, But my mother, she said, you're not going. You are not going to enter religious life. Those sisters, all they'll do is take your money.
What money?
And what money, Mom? And she says, you're not going. And I said, oh, yes, I am. And she says, no, you're not. And I said, yes, I am. And she said, I'm the boss. And I said, oh, no, God is the boss. And so then my dad said, don't listen to her. She's just jealous because she can't do it. So that was the response that I got from my family. Yeah.
From New York to Roswell and so many places in between, Sister Rose's mission was clear. Serve the least among us.
I'm 97 years old, and I've done a lot of stuff, I don't think that you can collect all of it. That involved going to Houston. I was in jail for a whole month, and then I went to New York. I was there for a week, and then I went to New Jersey, and I was jailed 2 times for a month. I was jailed for trespassing and pro-life work. For picketing, for doing all those bad things according to, it went to the Supreme Court even, so.
Oh, wow.
It was the FACE Act. In fact, I quit my job in Las Cruces administering to the food program for 10 years, and then I went to jail, and I didn't figure that I should beg for money for the food program if I had a record. So I wouldn't do that anymore. So I left that, and then I went into the pregnancy center, which administered to pregnant ladies for a while, and I did that for a couple of years, and then I was on their board for a while, and then I think I just kept going. I kept going to picket all the time. Every week we picketed in front of the people that did abortions.
They weren't just roommates, they were mission partners. Their bond became a foundation for a spiritual community.
I think we've been together for about, I've been professed 21 years, and I was with them like 4 years, so it's been about at least 26 years.
What began as a temporary living arrangement turned into decades of sisterhood in the deepest sense.
I met them in Las Cruces, and the thing is when I was teaching in Gadsden, then I was living with a friend of mine that she decided all of a sudden to get married, and she was marrying this guy, and she told me that I had to move out by October, and so I was having a hard time finding a place to stay. So I stayed with various people, and then all of a sudden I spoke to one of the sisters from Immaculate Heart, and she said, well, what about getting in contact with Sister Rose and Sister Eva? And at that point, I wasn't going to enter with them. I didn't even know it, but so I called them up, and they said, come over, and I was able to move in like January the 15th or something like that. As the time went on, I really liked what they did and felt comfortable, felt like a family, so that's how I ended up with them.
Well, I was the one that kind of initiated it with the bishop, and so it started, and then Sister Eva, God rest her soul, she was the one that was with me when we began that. We tried to, but to tell the truth, I was so involved in everything, so I don't think it had a chance, really, because I was involved in the food program, I was involved in Food Share, I was involved in Habitat for Humanity, I was involved with, so many different things that I don't think the Lord was designing me to have anything permanent anyway.
Yeah.
That's why I feel at this stage of my life, at 97 anyway.
For nearly a century combined, Sister Rose and Sister Martha have given more than sermons and lessons. They've given their lives. May we all find the courage to live as boldly, love as freely, and serve as humbly.
About 6 years ago, I retired from regular teaching, and so then I decided that I just wanted to go subbing. And so I substitute at Roswell, at Goddard High, and then I sub at All Saints whenever they call me, whenever they need. So those two schools I sub. Here, what we do is, like in the morning when we get up, we have our little breakfast. Sister makes the tea and the juice and everything else, and then we say our prayers. We watch the Mass on TV, and then at noon we go to the Mass at Assumption, and then we do chores, whatever we need to do. We read, like literature, whatever. So it's kind of like a low-key life, but it's good. And then I do all my chores that I need to do. I get involved we go out to the community, we go out to the stores, we go out to eat, we talk to friends, just things like that. And then, above all, now the latest thing we're doing is dot art. And that has been just such a blessing. Our friend Sally Knight introduced us to the dot art, and we didn't even know what we were doing. We went over to, where was it? Hobby Lobby. And she said, look for the dot art stuff. And we didn't even know what we were looking for. But anyway, we bought some stuff. We brought it, and she came over and she taught us how to do it. And after that, we went to town on it, and we made pictures after picture. And, and then we just give them away to somebody, and that is so joyful because they just don't even expect it. They say, oh my gosh, this is beautiful,
How has your relationship with God evolved over the years?
Oh, I'd say he gets along pretty well with me, and I with him. I think
it's been a growth, at first I thought, well, maybe it's kind of like the same as when I took my vows, but it hasn't, because every year, there's growth. You can't be stagnant. If I was stagnant and not pray and not go to Mass or not help and love other people, then how could I grow? How could I serve? So I believe that I have growth, and it continues to grow.
It's corporal works, it's spiritual works of mercy. That's what I advise people to hang on to. That's what the Lord wants us to do.
Yeah.
I'm more of a person functioning, doing something, rather than thinking something.
Yeah.
I know this is good, but this is more to my work.
Yeah.
And I guess throughout the years I've met so many friends, and it's interesting that with some friends that I meet, I've kept close contact throughout the years, and then there's some that it kind of fades away, But I've met some pretty good people here in Roswell.
Sister Rose and Sister Martha are the last living members of the Christian community of the Eucharist. As the final torchbearers of their Franciscan community, their lives reflect the enduring spirit of a mission that has touched countless lives. Thank you, Sister Rose and Sister Martha. Your legacy continues in the hearts you've touched.